Is this non-fiction? Is this just fantasy? Work in the library, we escape from reality. Open your eyes, pick up a book and read. I'm volunteering, there's many more like me, 'cause we treat them well, don't let them go. Train our stuff, watch them grow. Tell me where the cool kids go. Must be to the library to read, to read.
Ladies and gentlemen, that is the Librarian Rhapsody, performed by the Shoalhaven Library staff, opening up for tonight's episode of Silver City Community Theater Radio Hour. We are here Sundays at 5 on Gila Members Community Radio, KURU 89.1 FM, Silver City, New Mexico. We're also streaming online at gmcr.org, a voice and a choice for Southwest New Mexico. Welcome, friends. If we haven't met before, my name is Wendy Spurgeon. I'm your hostess here with weekly radio theater entertainment, artfully edited by Chris Wellman of Mystic Way Productions, featuring the fresh, locally sourced talent of Silver City Community Theater and beyond. Season 2, Episode 5, Americans at Work, The Librarian, starring the talented kids of Aldo Leopold Charter School, followed by WHO, Books and Bananas. In between, you'll hear some great music Chris found, including one of my favorites, Marian the Librarian, from The Music Man. We are honored to have the talented kids of the Aldo Leopold Middle School drama classes as our radio play cast for The Librarian. It is part the fictionalized story of Helen the Librarian and part transcript of real librarians being interviewed about the trials and tribulations of library work. Our radio play is in the long side, about 34 minutes, and our talented students did a great job considering they were up against some unfortunate challenges. One, they were recorded in a big, echoey classroom. Special thanks to Chris for many, many hours trying to improve the sound quality. 2, the students are required to wear masks indoors, which muffles their diction. Despite these challenges, you'll hear some great performances by talented Aldo students, so we invite you to relax, suspend your disbelief, and allow yourself to be entertained by this charming and educational documentary set in 1939, even if you don't quite catch every word clearly. For our upcoming Aldo radio plays, the students and I are brainstorming ways to soundproof the classroom recording corner and to improve the quality of diction through our masks. Enjoy 1939's Americans at Work, The Librarian.
Hen says, a hen's allowed in the library, 'cause I want to go to the library. A hen's allowed in the library, I want a story. Such a lot of books, such a lot of books, such a lot of books, I want a story.
Americans at Work, the program about what you do for a living. What's your job?
I'm a bank clerk.
I'm a wheat farmer.
I'm a cashier in a restaurant.
I'm a model.
I'm a tailor.
Each week at this time, the Columbia Broadcasting System brings you the human stories behind the job, a glimpse into the lives and work of the people who keep our everyday world in order. Americans at Work. Tonight, Columbia presents, but wait a minute, perhaps a better introduction would be a little scene that took place last week in one of New York's overcrowded sections.
Hey Johnny, what are you doing with them books? Trying to get in good with the teacher?
They aren't school books.
What are they then? Let's see them. Where'd you get them?
I got them from the library.
The library? Yeah, you did.
Yes, I did. And I got a card to prove it. Look at that. My name on it.
Well, I'll be. Look at that, fellas. John Sweeney, printed too. Some pumpkin.
Yeah, and all I gotta do is give this card in, and Miss Martin lets me take all the books I want. She helps me pick them. And are about icebergs and submarines and...
Say, Mike, are we going down to Kelly's or are we going to listen to that boy yet?
Come on, keep your shirt on. Say, Johnny, how did you happen to get one of them cards?
Miss Martin, I'll tell you. She's swell.
Miss Martin will tell you. Miss Martin, that trim, busy, kindly woman who sits at work in a city branch library and opens a magic world of books to the stream of human beings, young and old, who flow past her day. Miss Martin is one of America's 40,000 librarians who, like the teacher, the doctor, the social worker, find their work entangled every day in the lives and problems of the people they serve. Tonight, we're going to tell you about Miss Martin. Is her job dull?
Library work? I should say no. I love it. It's exciting and it's always different. Never monotonous. It's just as different as every individual reader is, and no two people are alike.
Well, we'd like to know something about you.
What would you like to know? I'm 32. I've been here at this library branch for 6 years now. I share an apartment with another girl. She's a trained nurse. And our hours are so different that we rarely see each other.
Helen, can you take the lending desk for the next half hour? Miss Gray has a cold and has gone home.
Why, yes, surely. Right away. Excuse me, won't you? Saturday night always means a busy lending desk.
So Miss Martin tackles another of the many duties that fall to a librarian. How did she get her job? Well, let's go back 18 years ago. A 14-year-old girl sits in the living room in a pleasant house in a small American town.
Helen, it's ridiculous to think of your wanting to become a librarian. Why? Let's just work for older ladies who need help out a little bit.
That's the whole trouble. That's what you think it is, but you don't know anything about it. I love books, and I'd like to help other people love them.
That's what you get, Grace, for letting the child keep her nose in the books all the time. Girls shouldn't be bothered with book letting.
Oh, Dad, how can you say such old-fashioned things? I do want to be a librarian. I really do. What do you say, Uncle Ned?
Yes, Ned. Maybe you can talk some sense into this girl's head. Bury herself away in the library.
I say if the girl wants to be a librarian, let her. You know, times have changed, Grace. Just because your spinster sister Jane sat in the Ellenville General Store 43 years dealing out a passel of books she'd never read to all the neighbors and running the town to boot, doesn't mean that that's what Helen's going to do. From what I can see, a librarian's gotta be a right modern smart girl now. Oh, she has, Uncle Ned. High school, college, then a year at library school.
All that just to learn how to stamp dates and back books?
Stamp dates? Have you any idea what she does? She's gotta learn cataloging and literature and history and physiology. I don't know. And everything. She helps people with what to read, see that they get the best.
Helen, dear, I had no idea you felt so strongly about it.
Well, I do. I went over last week to talk to the county librarian at Westbrook. And you know what she said? She said, if you want to be a librarian, you don't come in here and tell me you like books. You come in here and tell me you like people. And I know you'll be a good one.
Young Helen Martin liked books and people, and 6 years later, after high school and a state university, she got her first job, replacing a librarian who was to retire. What was it like? This first step in the librarian's career? Well, it was a small local library in a town of 5,000. Perhaps you remember one in your hometown, the rural library, small and isolated, that accounted for nearly half the books loaned and read in America. Helen's salary was $60 a month, and her main problems were many.
Now, my dear, I've been here 31 years, and I think I can help you getting settled before I leave. By the way, where are you living? I have a room down at the parsonage. $7 a week with meals.
That's nice. You'll find it very pleasant. And of course, your month vacation, you can go home.
Mercy, I haven't thought of a vacation yet. I'm too anxious to get started. Are there lots of books?
Now, the list isn't very good, and you'll find difficulty in buying for it. What they want to read and what you think they ought to read. But of course, every one of us has that problem. You'll just have to know your people. Now, for instance, there's the Callan family. They're mill workers, all of them, and they can come running to the library. Sometimes they walk, and it's 6 miles.
What's that card with the red mark?
That's Mrs. Granville, the wife of one of our trustees. She's always looking for material for papers she reads at her club. You'll end up by writing the papers, too. I always had to, Ming Dynasty Indian music.
Goodness. Well, I can try.
Now, here are the Bryants. Nice family. Oh, you'll know everybody in town shortly. They ask you for Sunday waffles, and they are awfully nice. But be careful when they send them a card with little Jimmy has a book long overdue. Try to avoid it. She gets perfectly wild.
How do you get the book back?
Oh, you'll run into Jimmy around coming from school or in the drugstore, and you just keep asking him. And now, here's the Hackett family. He's a truck farmer, lives about 10 miles out of town. They're very poor, but they're rich in what they get from books.
Goodness, you really know your people, don't you?
Everybody. It's the only way to be a successful country librarian.
The local librarian holds a key job in her small community. Her particular problem is knowing her people intimately, supplying an infinite variety of demands from a small supply of books, and suiting her personal life to a budget that will rarely grow beyond $1,000 to $100 a year. What about the city librarian? Well, let's ask Helen Martin. Her story is typical of that.
I was a rural librarian for 6 years. It was a wonderful experience in knowing people, but I knew I couldn't get any further there. In those 6 years, I had managed to save enough to take me to library school for a year. A year later, I started to look for a city job.
A city job, joining the thousands of busy men and women who cater daily to the book needs of millions. Although we are telling you the story of a girl librarian tonight, the library field has at least 1 man out of 7 librarians in technical departments, in advisory work, in administrative work, in every branch. For it is the trained man librarian who fills the executive positions at our biggest library. How important are these libraries? In many American cities, actually more people subscribe to the public libraries than to the telephone service. But now back to Helen Martin. What does the girl in the city library do? Well, she might do cataloging to begin with. She might sit at the reference desk and help subscribers look at material. She might even start in the repair room, moving and sorting old books. Wherever she started, today she would be required to be a trained librarian. That is, 1 year at a library school after her college course. But when Helen Martin came into the city,
I was lucky. It wasn't necessary in those days to have a library training, so having it gave me a good start. I got a job for $100 a month in the information room of a city library, and there I really learned what a library really meant, and incidentally what hard work meant too.
Miss Marian, you're new, but you look capable. We're putting you on 3 nights a week. You will, of course, have those mornings free, but you will remain on duty till 10. Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays. Here's your schedule.
Oh, Miss Martin, that's tough for a beginner. Saturday night when you might want to do things?
Oh, I don't mind that. I don't know anybody in the city, and I just as leave be at work. Saturday night's the busiest, isn't it?
In winter, yes. Saturday afternoon is the worst, though. Where are you living?
I found a furnished room over on 47th Street. It looks all right, and it's cheap. $7 a week.
That's about right.
I know a pretty good restaurant over there. You can get breakfast for 25 cents, dinner for 55 cents. You can find salaries go very far in this city.
And I know a marvelous shop where you can buy clothes cheap and you need them. Dresses, $10, and hats, $4.
I'll be glad to know about it. But right this minute, the only thing I want is a pair of shoes. Low-heeled, comfortable ones. It seems to me I walk miles in that building every day.
You do. You can get a pair like mine. Look at them. Comfortable as they come for $6.
Say, girls, there's a lecture in the social division on New India tonight. Want to come? Come on, Miss Martin, you come with us.
One of the librarian's chief tasks is to keep up with events. She must read. She must know what's going on. Travel if she can.
It wasn't easy on the $100 a month, but somehow we have to do it. At least read and go to lectures. We must keep ahead of our readers to be able to help them, because that's what a librarian's job is. It isn't books. Books are simply your instrument. It's people. It's humans' lives to be helped and inspired and perhaps even thinking.
Was the work in the city library hard?
It wasn't easy. It meant always being cheerful and smiling no matter how you felt. It meant working continually under pressure. Never a moment to stop and relax. As soon as you finished with one person, there was another. Sometimes as many as 100 a day would come to my corner of the information desk. It meant... Hello? Oh, yes, the health department. Yes. You want a list of books on air washing? Yes. I'll refer you to Mr. Anderson in the engineering section. He'll help you. All right. Certainly. Thank you.
Excuse me, miss.
Just a minute, until I make a note. There. Yes. What can I do for you?
Do you have any books on King Tut?
King Tut? Why, I think we have a good many. We have quite a section on ancient Egypt.
Well, I read a little piece about him in the other day, and I thought I'd like to read some more.
Well, I think I can give you quite a list. I'm not sure if they're in the circulation library, but I know you can read them in the reference section.
That's all right, miss. I got plenty of time to read. I worked in a shoe factory, but they laid me off, and I gotta find something to take my mind off things. This little piece about King Tut sort of got me, and I'd like to read some more.
That factory worker during his unemployment got to be almost an authority on Egypt. From simple little books, he branched out, and the last time I saw him, he was going to write an article for his community paper and was talking to the museum about a job. There were others.
Excuse me, miss. I want some books on chicken raising. Can you suggest a good one?
We have several. This catalog will give you some, and I'll be glad to make out a list.
I'd appreciate that. You see, my husband has worked hard in the city all his life, and now we want to go to the country. We bought a little place, and we think we can make go of it if we raise chickens.
We wanted a couple of hours to help these people and take it through their subject for them, but you can only skim the surface. The demands were too heavy. A wiring diagram for a photoelectric cell? Call Mr. Green in the electric division. Information on breeding milk in California? I'll see what we have. You're giving a debate on bus lines versus streetcars? Yes, I think I can get you a list of books.
Say, miss, can you help me? I'm looking for some books on public speaking.
Textbooks or general reading?
Well, I don't know. Anything that will help me? My boss sent me here. He wants me to make a speech at the mill next winter to the union, and, well...
Have you ever done any public speaking?
No, I can't seem to say anything in the meetings unless I get mad. I thought maybe you could help me with some books.
We could help him. We could always help them. Time was our only handicap.
The libraries were first to realize this, and in the last 10 years, one of these demands has grown one of the most interesting branches of library work in the whole field. Work that ranks with social work in its far-reaching effects. That is the work of the Reader's Advisory Staff.
That means that instead of floods of questions come to the general information desk, An office was set aside where a librarian could meet people, study them, talk to them quietly, and out of that conference recommend a list of books best suited to their needs. It's thrilling work, and it takes all the tact and sympathy and learning you could ever get.
Did you join the advisory staff?
No, I was at the information desk 3 years. Then one day they sent me to the children's room.
The children's room. Thanks to foresighted teachers and librarians of 50 years ago, almost every library today boasts a children's room or a children's corner. And children make up a third of more of Americans' total library users.
I'll never forget my first introduction to the children's room. I walked into a room filled with small chairs and tables and dozens of youngsters. And so King Arthur's sword waved 3 times in the air and then sank slowly into the water to disappear forever.
Yay! Thank you, Miss Brown.
Miss Brown, where can I get the story? Does the book have pictures?
My brother is homesick, Miss Brown. Should I take the King Arthur story home to him?
There are copies on the shelves. Those of you who can't get it this week, give your name to Miss Phillips. She'll have it for you later. Miss Brown, I'm Helen Martin. Oh yes, Miss Martin. You're the new girl for the children's room. You got here just at storytelling hour. The place isn't usually so hectic. Do you always have a group as large as this?
Page?
We try to limit it to 50, but it's very popular. Children from all walks of life. Poor children, children of professional people, they all love it. You'll like this part of the library work. I beg your pardon, are you the storytelling librarian in charge here? Yes, I am.
Well, my son Jimmy came home with his library card last week, and we won't have any peace until sister here gets one too. She's only 6. How young do you allow them to be?
Just old enough to sign the card and understand the pledge. Can you sign your name, dear?
I'm afraid she lost her tongue, but I know she wants the card.
Well, come over to the desk and we'll get her one. We have plenty of picture books for her. She'll get a lot out of it. Getting their library card is a big event for these children, and when I took the children's room, I always found it a fascinating performance. One youngster would bring another. It's their first act of citizenship, and they never failed to be impressed with the solemnity of it. I was in the children's section for 4 years, and I saw all kinds of things.
Miss Martin, could I have Peter Rabbit?
Yes, Sally. Right here. Sally, I've missed you. Where have you been all these weeks? Don't you want to tell? Home. And no time to come for book?
No, it wasn't that.
Well, don't talk about it, Sally, if you don't want to. Here's Peter Rabbit.
I know I shouldn't come, Miss Martin. Brother, too. Didn't have any shoes. That's why I didn't come to school either.
Sally, dear.
It wasn't that at all. Let me have Peter Rabbit. I'm going home.
There were all kinds of problems to be faced, and we did what we could to help those children on their way, making up for their poor surroundings and cramped quarters by opening the wide world of books to them. I was there for nearly 4 years. By that time, I had been on library work for about 12. I was transferred to another branch of the city library as assistant to the head. My salary was $2,000.
Now we want to know what problems a librarian has. What are the headaches in her job?
Well, it depends where she is. At the desk of the public library, well, stay around here, and you'll see.
Gee, Miss Marian, I'm sorry I kept this book out so long.
Well, it's bad, Joey. Your overdue bill is 26 cents.
26 cents? Gee, Miss Marian, I haven't got 26 cents.
I'm sorry. I really am. But it's a library rule. You can't take another book until your overdue bill is taken care of.
But
you don't have to pay it all at once, Joey.
Oh, well, I have 10 cents with me.
Why, that's fine. That's almost half of it. You'll have the rest paid off in no time.
Oh, I can't leave all of it. Could I have 9 cents back, please? And please, I'd like another book.
And because librarians must be something of psychologists as well as book advisors, Joey will get his next book, though it will take him many weeks to pay that bond. We've tried to give you glimpses of the work of America's 40,000 librarians. who dispense 4 free books a year for every man, woman, and child in the country, at a per capita expense of 37 cents a year. For each person to purchase those books, he would spend nearly $10. How did the library system start? Well, libraries are as old as books themselves. But in this country, interest in it was promoted by a group of eager young men in Philadelphia over 200 years ago. In 1731, Benjamin Franklin established the free lending library, and soon other book collections followed. In 1754, the New York City Library had 650 books in its collection, smaller than the smallest rural library today. A century later, it had grown to 31,000. But still, free books were available to only a fraction of the public. In 1850, a small, ragged 13-year-old boy in Allegheny, Pennsylvania, found time heavy on his hands. And Colonel James Anderson, a citizen of the town, noticed the little fellow playing in Barefoot Square.
What are you doing, young feller? Just finishing my chores weekend. There ain't any more jobs until tomorrow, so seems to me you could do something better with your time. Ever look at a storybook? Books? No, I haven't seen any books in the store. We don't have books in my house. Well, now, I'll tell you something. A boy like you wants to have books to read. Now come home with me and I'll pull you some books, and you can take any of them home to read. Take them home, mister? Oh, mister, that's grand of you. I know they call you Andy on the square. What's your full name? Carnegie, sir. Andrew Carnegie.
Andrew Carnegie never ceased to be grateful for that first opportunity to read good books. And years later, when he became a multimillionaire, he translated that gratitude into $65 million worth of libraries and communities all over the country. Over 3,000 libraries bring in books to sections that have never known them. But what of the early librarian? In Ben Franklin's day, the paid librarian worked 2 afternoons a week for a salary of $60 a year. But times were changing. Those who had pioneered and settled found time to read. Books were more in demand than trained persons to take care of them. After the Civil War, the work began to take on the dignity and scholarship of a profession. A profession that was to influence every kind of activity.
I'm a college librarian.
I'm a librarian in a reference room in a bank.
My job is to take library books to hospitals.
I drive a country book wagon. I'm a librarian in an insurance company. I'm a librarian on a newspaper.
And dozens of others. Trained as Helen and Martin is trained, today the librarian is in demand everywhere, and today some 35,000 women and 5,000 men answer that demand. We're going to take you to an actual library in Los Angeles for a direct interview with 2 women who are successful librarians today and introduce you firsthand to Americans at work. And as a job of supplying you with the wealth of library books, we take you now to Los Angeles.
Well, it seems that libraries are not so different here on the Pacific Coast from what you have all been telling us. There in the East. To most of us average citizens, the kindly smile and the well-informed answers they greet us when we go to our public library are factors in library service, and that we too have come to accept without question that I think it's a tribute, without wonder. We're apt to forget that the lady in the music reference room is a human being who has personal and private thoughts that are not entirely wrapped around Beethoven's symphonies and the obscure theme that you had buzzing through your head for weeks. However, we're now in the main floor of the Los Angeles Public Library. We're in the office just off the rotunda and not very far from the information desk. There's a quiet hum of activity, which makes an appropriate background for this interview. It's really a part of the library atmosphere. However, before we are 2 gracious ladies who should be able to answer the sort of questions I want to ask them. One is Miss Nell Steinmetz, who is the librarian here. She has had many years of children's library works. The other is Miss Faith Holman Hires, who is a library publicist. Miss Hires is a first and very leading question. I think, what special vocational training is demanded before a librarian qualifies?
Well, you see, we can't any longer be just genteel ladies when we sit at a library desk. Now we are rather expected to have about the same training that a teacher has, perhaps college, and perhaps a year in a library school to be a librarian.
And the specialized training that she gets in the library school has to do, of course.
The library school tries to do a tremendous piece of work to train you for all sorts of fields of literature and learning for 1 year.
Ms. Steinmetz, a good leading question for you, I think, is, are the hours exacting? We heard from the fictitious Miss Martin in New York that they are trying at times.
Not so much. As you know, we do work an 8-hour day, but it's a broken schedule so that you have certain mornings free. I think any woman will appreciate what a free morning means instead of working from 8 until 5 every day. If you do work until 9 o'clock, that's not too late to go out and be frivolous afterwards if you want to.
Tell me, are we who seek books as questioning of you? Are we very trying? Do we try your patience a lot? What would you say to that, Miss Hires?
Not trying, I should say, but very entertaining at times. Sometimes we have a little difficulty in discovering just what it is you're asking for. I remember once, in our science room, someone came in and asked if we had any books on electrical engineering. Of course, the library proceeded to find a whole shelf of books on electrical engineering, and then asked, "And just what phase do you wish?" "Well," she said, "I think something in household appliances." She later got it down to an electrical refrigerator, and finally, when the store came out, what the woman really wanted was a recipe for an icebox cake.
So she started off with an electrical engineering. Tell me, you've had so much years with children, Miss Steinmetz. Are children pretty careful with their books?
Yes, as a rule, I think they are. You have children in poorer homes who have some difficulty with keeping their books in good condition. We had a very engaging little girl come in one day who was heartbroken because a page from her book was missing. We knew that the family was poor and we didn't want to charge her a penalty on it. So we asked her if she couldn't bring the page in. She said no, she was awfully sorry, but she couldn't. It was a pictured book that she took home for her little brother to read, and the little brother had liked it so well that he had taken it to bed with him. We said, well, even if the page is a little crushed, we can perhaps straighten it out. She said, no, you see, the baby ate it.
That really leads up to the grown-ups on the same question. I imagine that people who come in and ask for books would be averagely careful with them. Is that true?
I think we could say that the great majority of people handle books pretty carefully, but once in a while we have someone who is very fond of giving his opinions or comments in a book. He writes these charming little essays on the sides of the page, and the future readers are somewhat bored or astonished at finding them. Recently, we discovered a man who had been indulging in his whimsy, and we asked him if he could pay the fine for these books. He couldn't do that, so we put him to work erasing his comments. It took him about 6 days of 8-hour work to erase those marginal amounts.
Good gracious, is that an unusual thing? Do you find that people quite generally make marginal notes?
It happens all too often, but we wish they might remember to do it on personal books.
It's often nice when they do it in pencil so that we can erase. Some of them do use ink.
Oh my, probably during school time too. I imagine on scientific or other books that would involve research.
Sometimes, yes, that would happen.
What do they do about fixing up books? The dog ears and the broken words and missing pages and cut-out pictures?
Of course, all libraries have big mending departments. We have one that we call the bindery, and perhaps 1/7 of our books in the entire collection have been to this bindery every year. And sometimes the dog chews a book, and then the person is probably paid for it.
This being an ad-lib interview, I've been racking my brain for the sort of questions that would present the most interesting highlights. The thought occurred to me. Are there any seasonal changes in the amount of use that people make out of libraries?
Yes, I think very definitely so. We have a run for garden books in the spring of the year, and travel books always go very well during summer vacation period. March and October seem to be the peak months of library usage. October perhaps because some people come back from vacations with renewed energy and want to turn their thoughts to something new. But March, I don't know why, unless you're coming out from hibernation from the winter.
Yes, that seems odd. March is really a sort of nondescript month, being beyond it having an inaugural month every 4 years and a rainy month. However, I'd really like to talk more about you, librarians yourselves, than about us who use the libraries.
Do you people have to read a lot of books yourselves to keep informed in the sort of questions that people ask? Or do you have lists of small, shall we say, reviews sent to you, or do you take it on hearsay?
I think the odd thing about it is that we all love to read books, and we read all we can and possibly find time for it. Then we depend on the expert reviewers who balance their judgments and keep track of what is coming in. In this library, we have what we call specialists, persons who know more and more about less and less. We have such a person in the science room. She knows more about her subject. She reads all the things that come in magazines and periodicals. She reports these findings to the other librarians so that we know how to order. That all helps.
You say that the lady in the science department is apt to reading scientific books. That would seem to indicate that people who have special qualifications are placed in special departments. Is that right?
That's what I think all libraries try to do. They say that no matter what you know, there is a place for it in the library work.
Out of that, too, grows another question. Does the particular work in libraries tend to develop certain hobbies among librarians? Personal hobbies that have nothing to do with their hours at the library?
Yes, I dare say that's true. The entire order department here, for instance, has gone in for stamp collecting because the books they would receive, of course, come from all over the world. There's probably a great battle going on as to who is going to get the first pop at the stamps as they come in.
And can you think of any other odd hobbies that have grown out of the work?
Yes, in our art department, I know there's a young lady who's most interested in Japanese books. She began growing flowers, and now she's quite an arranger of flowers. In fact, she's become quite well known.
I think that's extremely interesting, and I do want to thank you both for submitting to this sort of last-moment questioning. You've been listening to America's at Work, the program about you and what you do for a living, presented each week at this time by Columbia's Department of Education. Tonight's program was directed by Brewster Morgan and the script written by Margaret Luther. This interview with the librarians were conducted by Thomas Freeberry Smith of Station KNX, and the conduct of the Workers' Education Bureau of America collaborates on research for the entire series. This is Columbia Broadcasting System.
Frog says, "A frog's allowed in the library, 'cause I want to go to the library. A frog's allowed in the library, I want a story. Read a lot of books. Read a lot of books."
Madam Librarian, oh, what can I do, my dear, to catch your ear? I love you madly, madly, Madam Librarian. Marian, heaven help us if the library caught on fire and the volunteer hose brigade men had to whisper the news to Marian. Madam Librarian, oh, what can I say, my dear, to make it clear?
Ladies and gentlemen, if you are just tuning in, you're listening to Silver City Community Theater Radio Hour on KURU 89.1 FM. That was 1939's Americans at Work, The Librarian, featuring the talented students of Aldo Leopold Charter School, doing a great job considering they were recorded in a big echoey classroom and are required to wear masks indoors. Introducing our ensemble cast from two different drama classes, Chloe Arnold, Innocencia Casaus, Alex Garcia, Michaela Jericho, Adelie Kempton, Phoenix Mayers, Emma Pittman, Tennille Solberg, Jules Stites, Zaya Blood, Samara Castillo, Kyoka Doherty, Angela Cheney, Savvy Eggy, Isabella Terran, and featuring Wesley Wolf as announcer John Reed King, Scarlett Evans as Helen the Librarian, and Zaya Pearson as announcer Thomas Freebairn Smith. If you know any of these kids, be sure to give them a compliment the next time you see them. We are working to create a soundproofed recording corner in our classroom, and we're working on improving our diction through masks for upcoming student radio plays. Great job, kids. The Librarian was originally broadcast on July 1st, 1939. Americans at Work is about American people and what they do for a living. It was a series of documentary broadcasts started on April 28th, 1938, in cooperation with the CBS Adult Education Board under the chairmanship of Professor Lyman Bryson of Columbia University. Next up, we've got WHO Books and Bananas, originally aired on May 15th, 1930. This script is from the Bulletin of the Iowa Library Commission. Their publicity committee broadcast a weekly series of 15-minute-long talks over Des Moines Station WHO in the winter and spring. On at least a couple of occasions, specially written plays were performed. This one, Books and Bananas, is by Helen Harper Atten, reference librarian, traveling library. The county library play, which follows, was printed as it was given over WHO by the staff of the Iowa Library Commission. Our Silver City Community Theater cast includes Billy Dominguez as the announcer, Sarah Thrasher as Jane, Mary Barrett as Mrs. Todd, Ted Pressler as Mr. Woodman, and myself, Wendy Spurgeon, as Miss Clark. Enjoy Books and Bananas.
It's a mighty hard road that my poor hand has hoed. My poor feet has traveled a hot, dusty road. Out of your dust bowl and westward we rolled, and your desert was hot, and your mountains was cold.
Radio friends, we are about to present a short play entitled Books and Bananas. Ours is a county library play. This is the day of county libraries, when groceries and books are becoming equally accessible to the modern farmer. So we invite you for a few moments to go with us to a country general store, Puckins & Puckins, located in the little town of Advance in our own tall corn state. As you enter the Puckins store, glance please over its front door. You will see a brightly painted sign hanging there which reads, "This is a branch of the Progress County Free Library." Let me introduce you to two of the characters of our play. They are customer and clerk, standing on either side of the store counter, surrounded by a familiar and friendly aroma of harness leather, coffee, and bananas. Mrs. Todd, a farmer's wife, is our customer. As the play opens, she is stuffing a box of cornflakes into a large oilcloth bag. Glance to Mrs. Todd's right at the end of the counter. You will see a conspicuous case of bright-colored books under a poster which reads, "Take home a book." The heroine of our play, Jane, 18-year-old daughter of the storekeeper, is waiting on Mrs. Todd. Jane is the store's librarian. Listen to her. She is pouring freshly ground coffee into a paper bag for Mrs. Todd.
I'll have this coffee tied up in a jiffy, Mrs. Todd. Hope you like the new blend.
Take your time tying that poke, Jane. I'm in no hurry. Mind if I pick myself a library book for over Sunday?
No, Mrs. Todd. Make yourself right at home there at the bookshelves while I get the sugar for you.
Land sakes, what will we do without this county library?
That's what everybody says, Mrs. Todd.
Oh, that reminds me. I brought up a letter about a book to show you.
Is it from John?
Yes, from John. Now, where did I stick that envelope?
Mrs. Todd, is John still a radio operator on the fruit boats?
The United Fruit Line, yes. He's running from New Orleans to Jamaica and Puerto Rico now. Been made head operator for the boat line, too. Here's that letter.
Head operator, that's great.
You see, John's been having shore leave in New Orleans for a week, and he read this book down there in the public library. Writes me to be sure and get it at the county library. Here's the name of the book, Jane. Looks like Record Flights to me.
That's it, Mrs. Todd. Record Flights. It's a book on flying by Clarence Chamberlain. Miss Clark, the county librarian, told me she'd bring that book out to our branch someday.
That's the book, Jane. Look here. John says, "The boy that wrote that book, Mom, is an Iowa boy. His name is Clarence Chamberlain."
Well, I'll just ask Miss Clark for it, Mrs. Todd. Oh, that makes me think. I've got a book right here under the counter now for you.
For me?
Yes, Miss Clark brought it out from the headquarters this afternoon in the book wagon, especially for your Donnie. Where did I put that now? I told her when she was here last week you had a 12-year-old that surely did like to read about airplanes. Where is... Oh, there's the telephone. Excuse me a minute. Hello, this is Puckin's store. Yes. Mary Stone? Yes, but she's just gone. Oh, is this Mary Stone? Yes, I'll be glad to. 2 dozen bananas? All right, we'll deliver them tomorrow morning. Do we have what? Oh, in the library, you mean. Poetry? Well, oh, poultry. Chickens, you mean. Yes, we have a book on chicken raising. Just a minute. Yes, it's in, Mrs. Stone. Practical Poultry Keeping, it's called. Well, Mr. Pickle that sells Dad eggs just brought it back, and he says there's some good pointers in the book. Oh, we can send it to you. We'll put it right in with the bananas. Surely we do that. You bet. Goodbye. My, I wish Dad would get back from the post office. I'm afraid that phone started in for the afternoon. And you know, Mrs. Todd, the big district debate's up on at the schoolhouse this afternoon. I think it might be over any minute, and I'm simply dying to know if our boys beat the Enterprise debate team.
Is somebody all set to bring you the news, Jane?
Well, Miss Clark promised to drive past here in the book wagon on her way out of town. She stayed to hear the boys debate this afternoon.
I read by the Progress Chronicle the book wagon lady would attend the debate.
Oh, the team invited her especially. Why, Ted Schweitzer's on the team, and he told me our boys wouldn't stand a chance in today's debate if it weren't for all the debate books Miss Clark's been sending from the county library.
Ted Schweitzer, did you say?
Yes.
His father must be the one they call Old Man Schweitzer. Has the farm out toward Jake Cutter's place with the new silo.
That's him.
Why, I heard my husband say Gus Schweitzer voted against the county library appropriation last fall. Huh. Said farmers hadn't time to read.
Yes, he did vote against it.
Well, maybe now that his son's turning out to be such a good arguer and using so many books from the county library, Mr. Schweitzer will kind of make over his mind, Jane.
I hope so.
Now, here we stand talking politics, and I haven't seen that airplane book yet.
I'll get it right now for you. Here it is.
Land Alive, an alphabet of aviation. Donnie never will get his chores done now. I wonder, has this book a glider picture in it? First it's airplanes, then it's gliders Donnie's trying to build. I'll have to tell that young gentleman, though, it's no gliders till he's milked the cow first. My, he will enjoy this, Jane.
Miss Clark will want to know how he likes it.
You know, there is one book I'd like to get today. It's for my neighbor on the farm south, little Mrs. Harper. A book on the care of bees. Mrs. Harper talks of starting a few hives this spring.
Mrs. Harper? Is she that pretty little woman from England?
Yes, bright little thing. Came over from the old country just 2 years ago. Planned to spend a summer vacation with her married sister. Fell right in love with an Iowa farmer, and here she is settled down and about to start bees.
Oh dear, Mrs. Todd, I see somebody has our ABC and XYZ of bee culture out right now. But I'll get Miss Clark to mail out a bee book from the main library to us tomorrow.
Oh, dear me, Suze, Jane. I wouldn't want to cause all that trouble.
It's no trouble. She mails out books often between visits. She mails them out for 4-H club work and women's club papers.
Well, I'm sure these 3 books I've picked out here will be plenty for over this Sunday. Would you wrap them, Jane?
You bet I will.
Yeah, the back of our car's a mite dirty for books. Now, I must be getting over to the creamery. They owe me some milk money. I see you're getting another customer anyway.
Another? Oh, you mean the old man just getting out of the wagon in front? That's just Mr. Woodman. You know him, Mrs. Todd.
Don't believe I do.
The man that always wears an old red stocking cap on his head and carries his groceries in a potato sack over his shoulder? He's often in here. He's a little deaf, but he and Mrs. Woodman are 2 of our best readers. How do you do, Mr. Woodman?
Howdy, Jane. Your dad here?
I'm expecting him any minute, Mr. Woodman.
Well, I'll get my books picked out, and then I'll mosey round the drugstore and come back when your dad's here. I'll allow to talk to him about some harness today. Dang, where'd I stick them Ingersoll books?
Here, Mr. Woodman, let me get them out of the sack for you.
Jane tells me you're a great reader.
What's that, ma'am?
I say you read a good deal, do you?
Well, I like a book if it's got punch, ma'am. Finding the book's all right, Jane?
Yes, I'm just getting the last one out of the bottom of the sack. This one is on the Civil War. Seems to be all mixed up here with your packages.
That prison escaped of the Civil War? Say, that book's a pippin', Jane. Got any more as good as that? I'd kind of like another pirate story today, too.
I wonder if you've read this one, Mr. Woodman. Treasure Island.
What's the name?
Treasure Island.
No, don't think I have. There's lots of books I've missed in my time. This one sounds good. This picture here looks as though it had some action in it, all right. Say now, just happen to think. Got any book around here by the name of Uncle Tom's Cabin?
Yes, right here on this shelf.
Well, now, there's a book I've read about 30 years ago, Jane. Guess reading it now be about like reading a new one. You can give me that, too.
Does your wife read the books with you?
Oh, yes'm. Me and the old woman don't do much but read, especially these long winter evenings, since we got the county library. About the size of it, ma'am. We've been just kind of trying to wear the winter out. But I don't hardly know this spring whether the winter's wore me out or I wore it. Well, I'm much obliged to you, Jane. You know, ma'am, these books being right here in the store, they're all right. I say, for the grown-ups and the children. I'm willing to pay my part of the tax for this county library.
I too, Mr. Woodman.
Yes'm, and a great help these books is to the one-room schools in this neck of the woods. But I see you talking to a feller down the pike here the other day. You ought to get converted to this county library.
Who's that, Mr. Woodman? Mr. Schweitzer, I suppose.
Yep, old man Schweitzer. I've been telling you, Schweitzer, I said to him the other day, you ought to go into Putkin's store and look over the county library books one of these days. Not me, says he. No, he says, I suppose I'll have to acknowledge the books are proven all right for the schools and like that. But what use is books to a farmer? Why, Schweitzer, says I, you ain't tried them out, have you? Now take for instance, I says, you was complaining last summer your alfalfa crop weren't looking so good. Now, I just happened to notice the other day they got a book down at Putkin's store on alfalfa growing. Shucks, says he, I ain't never planted by a book yet, and I don't call that to begin. Well, says I, just thought you might like to know the book was there. Might give you some pleasure to look it over and see where you don't agree with the feller that wrote it.
Oh, Mr. Woodman, that was good.
Oh, well, I'll be getting along. Mark my words, though, Jane. One of these days, Gus Schweitzer will be visiting you like the rest of us and borrowing a book. Good day.
Goodbye, Mr. Woodman. Oh, Mrs. Todd, stay just a minute longer. There's the book wagon horn, and here's Miss Clark right now.
Well, Jane, I brought you good news. Progress won the debate.
Miss Clark! Oh, Mrs. Todd, isn't that great? We won! Miss Clark, you remember Mrs. Todd?
Indeed, I remember Mrs. Todd. And how's that boy of yours that used to borrow all the radio books?
My son John, you mean? He's operator on the fruit boats now, Miss Clark. He just wrote me about a book he wants me to read. Record Flights.
Jane, just make a note of that for me, will you? I don't have that book in the book wagon today. I'll have to send it out to you next week, Miss Todd.
Oh, Miss Clark, I got the book on farm buildings you sent out for Mr. Savinsky.
Good. Now I can't stay a minute longer. I'm due at our new branch library in Rock Creek. Ted Schweitzer was splendid in the debate, Jane. Well, goodbye till next week.
Goodbye.
Oh, Jane.
Yes, Miss Clark?
I almost forgot a message I have for you.
For me?
Yes. I got a new patron for you over at the debate this afternoon. He shook hands with me and told me to tell you he's coming in for a book. A book on alfalfa.
Miss Clark! Not, it surely can't be Mr.
Mr. Schweitzer, that's who it is. Well, goodbye, Mrs. Todd. Goodbye, Jane. See you next week.
Goodbye.
Bye.
I'm heading down to the library to borrow some books that I want to read. And on my way there, I'm gonna wave to the lions. There's so many books hanging out on the shelf, and a friendly face always willing to help. And when I go, I always know I'll leave with a smile and a pile that goes for miles and miles. I can read for a while.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for tuning in today for Silver City Community Theater Radio Hour right here on KURU 89.1 FM. This is Season 2, Episode 5, Americans at Work, The Librarian, starring the talented kids of Aldo Leopold Charter School, followed by WHO Books and Bananas. I found these great plays on genericradio.com/library as I was looking for back to school, back to work themes. You've also heard some great music our audio engineer Chris Wellman found, starting off with the Librarian Rhapsody, performed by the Shoalhaven Library staff. One of my favorites, Marian the Librarian from The Music Man, and the New York Public Library sings the Library Song. We are a community theater. SCCT is committed to promoting community theater opportunities for residents of Southwest New Mexico in all aspects of theater: stage work, publicity, acting, costuming. Our objective is to enrich, educate, and entertain with a vibrant range of live theater experiences year-round. And we are optimistic that we will perform on live stages again soon. Stay tuned for audition information here on SCCT Radio Hour. In December, Phyllis McQuaid is holding auditions for 12 Angry Jurors for live theatrical performances in March 2022. Brenda McFarlane is directing the SCCT Youth Theater Project for kids 13 through 18, and they are working on a live production of a really cute play called Bug by Lainey Van Sant, which includes some of the kids you heard in today's performance of The Librarian. Our Aldo kids are also working on some original short plays and a combined class play that may be performed outside in one of our beautiful community parks the weekend before Thanksgiving. The shows must go on, masked or unmasked, indoors or outdoors, recorded or live, because the stories we share connect us as a community. And we need our stories in our connected communities now more than ever. Again, please give our kids some praise and encouragement for the great work they're up to. If you are interested in volunteering for Gila Members Community Radio, you can contact Marcus at manager@gmcr.org. And if you'd like to volunteer with Silver City Community Theater, go to www.silvercitycommunitytheater.com and press the Volunteer tab. Again, special thanks to our audio engineer, Chris Wellman of Mystic Way Productions, for bringing the magic. I am Wendy Spurgeon, your hostess here with weekly radio theater entertainment, asking you to join us again next week for Season 2, Episode 6, Solos, featuring Sarah Thrasher in The Littlest Angel, Jim and Phyllis McQuaid in Sorry, Wrong Number, Robin Santa Teresa in Miss Tithenwither at the Prize Fight, and Shelley Chase in Nurse's Day Out. Again, this is Gila Members Community Radio, KURU 89.1 FM, Silver City, New Mexico. We're also streaming online at gmcr.org. Have a great week. Bye for now.